Rossen, R-O-S-S-E-N. I detest Donald Trump. I've been protesting him for roughly 6 months, the vast majority of it right in front of Trump Tower. I started to get involved as soon as he said he wants a complete Muslim ban. I think in large part because my mom grew up in Nazi Germany. As with the let's go after one religion theory, that's when I got upset. The sexism of saying terrible things about women's appearance, the racism of refusing to rent to black people and challenging Obama's birthplace, making fun of handicapped people by trembling. That's just for starters. I do want to interject briefly that I'm not a big fan of Hillary's. The vote for the Iraq War I find deeply upsetting. The email thing, of course, is upsetting, but I do think she cares. I think she has a heart. People used to say to me that they're voting for Trump because he wants to help the poor. And I would tell them, give me one example and I'll vote for him. And in 6 months, I didn't hear anything. So I think we have an incredible narcissistic guy who cares about nothing but himself. He obviously wants to give tax cuts to the rich, which has never worked. And that's going to further decimate the middle class, which I think is the #1 issue in this country. The middle class is virtually non-existent. So we're in a full-fledged oligarchy, and that certainly will not change. And he's bringing the entire SS in now. Today was a guy named Jeff Sessions, a guy from Alabama, who could not become judge 30 years ago because of racist remarks. So, it's dire. Supreme Court might be the most dangerous one because it's going to be whatever he wants. There's 3 liberal Supreme Court justices that are in their 70s or 80s. And once they go, a lot of stuff is on the line, like Roe v. Wade. Gay rights won't be on the line, though. This is my associate. I like to call him Pat.
Trump.
So, we're fairly civil. That's one thing that is out here for the most part. Well, the Trump supporters have become more civil now that they've won.
The anti-Trump protesters' speech is very hate-fueled, though. It's unfortunate.
Hasn't been a single incident of violence in the protests here. 0.
Oh, except for the guy that spit on someone yesterday.
And this is good. And the swastikas that have been painted all over the South would make America great again.
You said here.
South. Oh, no, here.
We're going to do everything.
No, here in America.
We're going to do everything. You can go with the guy that got pulled out of his car and beat to a bloody pulp because they assumed he voted
here in
for Trump.
America, and the Hindi Sikh. He didn't even kill the right person. Anyway, so we're in full agreement. Any further questions, young feller? Actually, ignorance on that. Of course, trade deals are extremely important. You know, the whole idea of keeping Mexicans out when 90% of the work they're doing is stuff Americans simply won't do. It's not like they're overrunning Silicon Valley. And if you walk around any big city, especially New York late at night, you see that it's Latinos doing all of the grunt work. Now, specifically NAFTA, I'm not terribly versed in that, so I'm not going to blunder my way through that. Again, I'm not sure. You know, the putting penalties on jobs that are sent overseas. I mean, his history says no. I mean, his buildings are made from Chinese steel. His clothing is made overseas. So if he does it, which would be fine, it'll penalize him as well. I think he will do most of what he said. I mean, certainly everybody he's nominating now is as planned. I don't think they're building a wall, and Mexico certainly isn't going to pay for it. They have no reason to. They're not heavily dependent on us financially. Well, his buddying up to Russia, which is probably the most dangerous country towards us. You know, I'm fine if he has an open dialogue with Putin. But they seem the most willing to attack neighboring countries that haven't attacked them. So if indeed Russia continues to help us with ISIS, that's great. But it's not a simple thing. You know, Trump talks about simply bombing ISIS. Yeah, that's great, but they don't come out in the open. You know, I haven't heard a good plan going after them. Going city to city, street to street is all that's all that's possible because they don't come out in the open. So everybody wants ISIS bombed into submission, but it's, dropping bombs simply doesn't work. The drones are fairly effective, but to just annihilate cities means that terrorists are going to be doing horrible things here the next day. So I'd like to hear. I'm open to his plans for eliminating people that are among the population. So, we have no choice but let's see what he does, and both supporters and non-supporters hope for the best as they define it. Israelis and what? America's going to continue to side with Israel largely because they're more successful financially and they have a better army. I wish that Palestine was treated with equal courtesy. I think it is certainly debatable based on thousands of years how they should share that land, but America will always side, as everybody else will side with whatever is best for them financially, which is basically why we went into Iraq, I think. So, but our relationship with Israel, who I believe has nukes, will continue, to be more dominant than that with Palestine, who doesn't. Who's agreeing to this? Israel. He wants to do that, and what's Israel's response to that? So, he can want things for other countries. That doesn't make it so. Well, that's a mess, and he's a tyrant, and it's a shame that I don't know. Assad. Okay, you tested me there, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a monstrosity. Any country that never allows elections, that's trouble. And of course, that's what's happened in the Soviet Union. From what I understand, which again is cursory, I don't know how much better we could have done there. But essentially, I'll get it. I don't hear a better plan, and nor did I hear a better one from him. Yeah, that's going to make these highly profitable. I'm open to hearing a better plan in Iran. They're not going to allow us unlimited access. It's not hard to hide stuff. While I doubt very seriously that Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons, and while we of course never had any proof, who knows? But I think one of the most important things as far as fighting terrorism is do our best to stay out of those countries. Of course, I don't support what happened on 9/11, but they don't care about our freedom and democracy. Finland didn't get hit. It has a lot to do with our nationalism and our superiority, quote unquote, and our army bases in the Middle East. The attitude of we'll do whatever we want. That used to work, but enemies will not fight us out in the open. Our most expensive weapons, like the stealth fighters, B-52s, that's great if the enemy congregates in a field. Fighting street to street is something they've done for 1,000 years, and we won't prevail there. So there's a fine line between going after these ISIS jerks and realizing that a hands-off policy is also important. And we've done, as far as the Muslim ban, we've done a great job vetting people. There's only been about 100 deaths at the hands of Muslim terrorists in America since 9/11. 50 of them were in Orlando, which was unstoppable because he was already in America. And the other 50, that's pretty modest considering what they say that the threat is. White high school teenagers have sprayed and killed way more people than Muslim terrorists in this country. So just bad stuff, yeah. And of course, look, we have to treat people one at a time, and if we don't, it's just going to multiply terrorism. These are not easy answers. I'm willing to listen, but his attitude of everybody into certain categories is horrifying.
Hi, I'm Florence. I'm from New Jersey. I'm here to protest Donald Trump's presidency. But it's interesting, a lot of people don't understand my sign. I have to get it. They think that I'm saying that I love Trump's hate. But some people understand it. So I'm here to have a quiet, polite protest. I wish she had won. I wish that we had our first female president. I don't think she was perfect, but I'm against hate talk, and I'm against trying to, the threat that Trump represents to women's rights. And I also think he's a sexual predator based on what he said and what a lot of women have said. So, I like him a lot. I think he's great. I think he's terrific. And I think he's playing a very strong role now in terms of being a voice against policies that Trump represents that are against human rights and unity. I don't know enough about that to talk about it. I have to be honest. I don't know what his relationship with Russia is. I don't know enough about that, but there's something strange going on there, in my opinion. Oh, I think Russians in general are probably really nice people. Mr. Putin, I'm a little worried about Mr. Putin. I think he has some plans that might not be good for our country, but I don't know. I'm just a simple girl from New Jersey. I don't know how perfect, but I think that she has spent her whole life fighting for women's rights and children's rights. So I don't know enough about that. I'm not really, I don't know enough about it to talk about it intelligently. Politics that I do, I don't know enough about that. I would say that I don't like the idea of building a wall with Mexico. I don't like the idea of ejecting Muslims from this country based on their religion. I don't like the idea of limiting abortion rights. So I think love Trump's hate. I think a positive policy rather than a negative policy is important. This is my friend. He has his sign too. I was holding his sign for him. So I'm sorry, I probably didn't give you what you wanted, but I don't think I'm not well versed enough to discuss that. I'm more about like I said, the policies that I'm interested in. I think it would be great if we had more. I think it'd be great if we had a system more like Europe, but that's just my opinion. I think that's probably it. I don't really have much to contribute, but just love Trump's hate. Yay.
Okay, have a nice day.
My name is Tom LeClaire. I'm a U.S. citizen. On Hillary Clinton, I think she was a flawed candidate, but she was certainly much preferable to the demagogue that we now have elected. He might have been a better candidate, but I'm afraid he would have been flayed by Trump for being a socialist in the past. But he might well have won the working class whites that Clinton failed to win in the Rust Belt. From what I've read, the third parties didn't cost Clinton the election, but I have no use for the people who voted for a third party. No use for them because they did nothing to stop Trump from becoming president. You know, I'm kind of ambivalent about the trade deals. Obama, the last couple of days in Europe, has touted still the trade deals, believes that multinational cooperation is really the key to long-term success, but certainly there are people who've been hurt by the trade deals. But I don't think that the jobs that the white working class said were so important to them, I don't think they're coming back. I don't think the coal industry is coming back. I don't think a lot of those manufacturing jobs are coming back. I think it was a false promise by Trump on that issue. I'm pretty fearful of this. He's just appointed a national security advisor who is former general in the U.S. Army, but who appears on Russian TV and appears to be quite close to Putin. I'm not happy about this. Putin, he's a thug, just like our president-elect. Because he has no respect for minorities, because he wants to destroy free press, because, although this is not true of Trump yet, he's taken over parts of Ukraine and the Crimea. I see no reason to be in bed with Putin. I don't think he knows anything. He's an idiot. He doesn't have any policies. He has opinions. He says he knows more than the generals on fighting ISIS. He's a fool. He doesn't have enough intelligence to analyze. He just has opinions. that he can throw out as red meat for the electorate. That I'm not so sure about, but I kind of trust Obama on this. I trust that it is a good deal to prevent Iran from gaining nuclear weapons in the near future. I'm not familiar with that. What I'd really like to talk about is race. I'm familiar with his position on ties with Israel. I don't know that.